can. 1xN champion pool pretty wide open. The champion pools for this series starting to be narrowed as we are firing through our first bans here. Ultra Prime were able to land on blue side for the first round of this matchup in Group Nirvana. And we're starting to see some staples like you mentioned, Bloxer, Gwen, Pantheon, still going to be big players. Forest, at this point, I feel like will never not be an AD carry player. And then some of the newer picks. Annie catching a ban there for the last one for Ultra Prime. And Bessa, so R1, you mentioned some champions, Bloxer, and this has got to be an LPL staple. The Talia going to be locked in.
Okay, I really like seeing the Talia picked up this early on. It gives you so much extra roam potential. You can work alongside your jungler very well, and it's also just miserable to try to play into if you've got any dashes on your team, which a lot of the champions in the meta at the moment do have. Interesting that it's just going to be the Rumble slammed straight away. You do often see it, especially when you do ban away the Gwen, but to slam it this early on, that's a vote of confidence right here into Hoya, and getting to pair it up alongside the Baiye. These are two incredibly high priority champions that ThunderTalk get very early on here.
One of the things we're looking for when it comes to ThunderTalk and an agency is getting agency out of a player that isn't Feather. So I like to see Aki confidently slamming the Baiye. That makes you the focal point of any play that TT are going to look for. As you mentioned, the Ultra Prime, they're just coming back with staple meta picks after meta picks. We got the Zinzao next to this Talia, and a Scion would just create so much frontline and so much space that you can open up in these team fights for Ultra Prime to really already make it kind of a difficult time to play and navigate this Baiye.
Yeah, I mean, as the Baiye, which lane are you really looking to gank at the moment? It's going to have to be your bot lane. It looks like both of these teams are going to leave their bot lanes until the second round of the draft. So as ThunderTalk, you're going to have something to try to play around here, because otherwise the Baiye's just not going to have a good way into this game, and you have to get into this game earlier on. The Junhao always going to be more useful than you later on unless you get yourself a massive advantage. SeTab, back and forth between the Azir and the Ahri, is going to go towards the Ahri. Now, I'm usually a bit critical of this champion, but right here, alongside the Baiye, it gives you some high pick potential, and you also are not going to be that solo AP. You've already got the Rumble, so you don't have to worry about running out of magic damage. I do like what ThunderTalk have for themselves in terms of these are three very strong individual picks, and the pick potential of this comp is strong, but I do think Ultra Prime have just gotten away with the early stages of this draft a little bit better.
Both teams, interestingly, though, are going to have, like you mentioned in the mid lane, that roam threat. Ahri has, the dash ability, and Talia with a bit more threatening with that Weaver's Wall can get places quicker, but a lot of facilitation for early game plays coming from, honestly, both of these mid-jungle duos. So, getting some of those early game lane-dominant picks. Okay, lane-dominant picks, like we talked about. So the Lucian already off the board. They'll take away the Kai'Sa as well. So two snowbally and hyper carry, 80 carries taken away from 1xN. Still has his Caitlyn, still has his Ezreal. We'll see where they want to land as the Alistar gets locked in, knowing no Sylas will be here on the side of Ultra Prime.
And I really like the Alistar lock-in right here because it removes the Rel from being anywhere near as high a priority here for Ultra Prime. That's a horrible matchup. And that also takes away quite a lot from what could have been a bit of a wombo combo composition if you wanted to pick it up with the Rel and the Misfortune. As soon as you pick the Alistar, that kind of removes that as a possibility. Instead, Ultra Prime going to pivot. They're going to get themselves a little bit more of the poke. The Ezreal and the Talia work really well alongside each other because you can just poke out your opponents, ensure that they can't step up to these objectives anywhere near as easily. And it's going to be the Braum locked in. Braum obviously strong alongside the Ezreal, and this 2v2 lane can go toe-to-toe. It can be incredibly aggressive. ThunderTalk, you need something that's got a little bit of extra mobility, otherwise you can just get run out of lane.
We'll see. The Smolder has risen in a lot of priority, I would say, while some of those bottom laners go down. So you're also, if you're ThunderTalk, looking for a scaling threat, 1xN meets that mark. I'm really curious that Baiye didn't go for that Sivir. I would have liked the Sivir a lot more in this composition because you think about the front line, right? You got a Zinzao Crescent Guard, a tanky Scion, a Braum with a big shield to put up. There's a lot of protections here for the Sivir, but like you called out...
And now they're sprinting at you even faster.
Even faster. But I will say, for, a Baiye, Ahri, Equalizer coming down, Ezreal is going to be the slipperiest one of late, but does put a lot of damage pressure on Baiye, one of those new players for Ultra Prime, because Talia is somewhat decent, but you got a Snowball, and then you got a Scion Braum. A lot of pressure on one of the new guns here for Ultra Prime.
It really is, but hey, the Ezreal, like you said, with that extra mobility that you've got alongside the Braum as well, that's a pretty strong lane, and the fact that you've now got the Smolder on 1xN, I really, really like 1xn Smolder. I think he's a great late game hyper carry player, but it is not a comfortable lane to try to play out, especially alongside the Alistar. That level 1's going to be really miserable, and it doesn't actually get that much better for a long time. You are, again, though, putting a lot of pressure on your bot lane here for Ultra Prime because you have to shut the Smolder down. You can't just allow him to have a free lane. And the question I also have when looking at this composition is like, okay, I like what you're thinking about here. You've got lots of lanes to potentially gank for Junhao. What does Aki do in the early stages of this game? I'm not really sure where Aki goes.
Yeah. Listen, Bloxer, you're the analyst here. You can't ask me hard questions. I just yell what's on screen. So I don't know what you were expecting here from me, because I don't know what Aki's going to do, but I hope Aki knows.
I hope Aki knows too. Counter gank might be the answer, and to be fair, Vi does have a pretty strong counter gank, especially once you get to level 6. Maybe that's something he can do.
We'll have to see as we hit our get running onto Summoner's Rift here. Game 1, Ultra Prime and ThunderTalk, both still seeking their first single game win in Split 3. Nirvana. I guess Grapes was right in that first cast, man. Where are the Jayos, guys? Come on. I'm excited for Group Nirvana. I think they deserve them, and you can let Grapes know that. Wherever you are right now, Grapes. Hopefully you're asleep, my friend.
Hopefully. I mean, it is horrible times, as always, for those of you in North America. But yeah, it is a little bit sad. The complete just lack of cheering. Is nobody excited for ThunderTalk? People were so excited for ThunderTalk. They were the darlings of the LPL during Split 1. Super exciting, managing to top a group that had, at that point, an incredibly strong BLG squad in it. And yeah, now nowhere near as much excitement for this team. But as we've been saying, this could be a particularly important time for them, as the bot lane already getting frisky right here.
Called it out, Bloxer.
Yeah,
I mean, those Braum bitter stacks, getting the concussive blows, the stun comes across, and Ezreal brings a lot of damage early with the weaving in the autos and those mystic shots. But hopefully TT can stay resolved, because this entire game for TT revolves around when can you get the Smolder online, when does the Smolder become Exodia. So just surviving lane becomes a big priority.
It is, but you really want to be stepping up and being able to at least get yourself some of these stacks, not constantly having to sit super far back underneath your tower. The fact the Feather has already been back to base is not ideal at all, but it's what we're expecting. It's what ThunderTalk would have been expecting as well. So I really like the little bit of highlight of that ward right there. Yeah. Well aware are Ultra Prime's bot lane of where Aki is, and that could be really rough for a Vi, because yeah, Junhao immediately recognizes that and is going to go and try to play around the chickens as well.
Okay. Aki's going to show. Have to favor the Xin Zhao in an early exchange here. Yep. Both of them are going to fly over. And, yep, the big chicken going to go over to Junhao. So he's got himself not a full camp lead, but still a little bit extra going his way. And he's going to just mosey on down into his own red quadrant and pick up all of his camps for free. So an early lead coming to Junhao, and already some woes for a Vi. You called out Bloxer from Aki. Doesn't have a lot of areas to create early on.
No, that's going to be very much pigeonholed into just hopefully finding something. Hang on, bot lane again stepping up, and you do not mind trading the health from real Braum at all. As long as Baiye is still able to step up, hit a couple of these mystic shots and be aggressive, he's going to be more than happy with the way that this early lane is going. And you can see 1xn just constantly getting pushed back, beginning to struggle for mana a little bit as well. So is Baiye, right? It's not the end of the world. They haven't died yet. Aki could look for a gank top lane. He wouldn't be spotted, but interestingly, he's just a little bit more interested in grabbing this early scuttle. Doesn't want to fall behind even further with the camps.
Clutch ward there from Zhang.
Yeah.
Just places it down, and now Aki's going to try for this gank here.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if he, maybe a Vault Breaker over the wall, I still like the angle, but you don't have to go for this gank. Hoya stacking up a wave to crash, get himself a decent reset, and Aki will take his nonetheless. Despite that health switch that we saw on the bot side, 1xn is down a significant amount of CS, but did take the teleport on this Smolder, so should be able to regain some of that, being able to give himself a better reset compared to the walk back Baiye has to do.
Yeah, I mean, going for the teleport right here, it really does tell you that you're not expecting this early laning phase to be particularly easy. You can just constantly go for these resets, try to keep up in terms of item and effective stats before you get as strong as you need to later on. SeTab going to end up with a Braum in his lane. Nothing too much happening. Feather also going to arrive. And with all of this early moving around, yeah, I'm not sure I'm massively happy about this from the mid laners. And the level 6s are going to be very important for these mid laners, not just in the 1v1s, obviously, but very much more for these skirmishes around the objectives.
I have 2 breaking news articles to read out to you guys. Number 1, water is wet. Number 2, 1xN Smolder went for a coal. Shocking. Scaling Smolder wants to min-max farm and not fight.
Crazy, crazy work. The thing about that is, you know that's what your Smolder's going to want to do. So, do you get to play around these early objectives here as ThunderTalk? I'm not so sure that you do. Does Aki really want to be stepping up? Hang on.
Baiye, that is the cardinal
it's
sin.
Miserable.
I was going to say, that was the cardinal sin. Arcane shifting forward early game with like a 20-second cooldown, but they can be shut up pretty quickly with the amount
Into Smolder Alley?
Yeah.
Into Smolder Alley with no Ignite, no Exhaust, it just doesn't matter at this point. They simply do not have the damage to be able to actually punish that. Yes, you get into that double knockup, but that's just a little bit closer to your enemy to then do the damage, and Feather is half health again.
You can see the CS discrepancy starting to build even further by about 300 gold up. That wave is going to crash in for 1xN, so it's still going to be about a wave and a half of lead, and as you called out, just so hard for TT to find any agency for these early objectives. Liking what we're seeing from Ultra Prime early. They have a succinct plan, understand what lanes they should have priority in, and capitalizing on it right now by picking up that Ocean Drake. Not too far after spawn, but Hoya does have control of his top wave so far, drops the equalizer. Junhao on that tanky Scion, gonna be able to survive the combo. Not enough punch behind that Flame Spitter for the Rumble just yet.
Potential dive angle right here. Aki is in the area, would be spotted out. There's a defensive ward behind Jiang, so he would know it was coming. Still though, if you do want to try to get your Rumble ahead, I think that is one of the few lanes you actually do have some level of priority onto, and having a strong Rumble would be huge for the later stages of this game. Not going to be the case though, it's just going to be the wave pushed underneath the tower. Hoya going to head back to base for a little bit of extra stats in his pocket, and the swap is going to come through. You are going to see the roam up Baiye up into the top lane right now. The reset was immediate though out of ThunderTalk. They're also going to bring 1xN into the top lane. And we will have the grubs spawning soon, so there could be potential for some skirmish around here.
That's exactly where you have to look for, is that next big objective. Once you see these bottom lanes swap the way that they have, Junhao going to use that unstoppable onslaught to get back to this wave earlier. I want to give him a bit of props. He's done a pretty good job keeping up with the CS, despite the fact that Hoya kind of froze him off those early waves. He had a big crash wave into his tier 1 turret before that reset, but despite all that, only down about a camp worth, but we'll see if Hoya can capitalize on the fact that there's no teleport on this Scion and no ultimate to try and run all the way upriver for a Grubs fight. Like you pointed out, they will be coming in just a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect everybody to want to get involved in this one, but actually from the early positioning that we're seeing right here, Aki nowhere nearby, more playing down towards the bottom side of the map. And that is going to leave him a little bit out of position. Obviously, they did end up getting that top lane Scuttle Crab, so you're going to be well aware that this is happening if anybody steps over. Junhao obviously recognizing that, just going to jump over the side of the wall. SeTab, Aki, now they're going to move on over.
Yep, first roam to SeTab, and that's immediately sounding alarm bells for Junhao. Still going to knock down the first grub. Has XiaoXia to try and cover him as the Ultra Prime bottom lane had shoved first, and it's a staring contest coming from both of our teams.
You can't.
TT being dared to step up, and they have no way to do so, Bloxer.
No, you cannot. And this is what worries me a little bit about the ThunderTalk composition. The Vi wants to get ahead. The Vi wants to skirmish early. She wins a lot of 1v1s, but you don't win into Junhao's Jhin right here. And your bot lane is a hell of a lot weaker too. And with 2 roaming mid laners, it kind of evens out in that spot. So you're just stronger as Ultra Prime. You can just bully your opponents off of these early objectives. And we're already seeing it. The 3 grubs, the first Drake, they're just getting themselves these extra effective stats that are going to be very important going on forwards. And you've already got a decent tower-taking team composition here from Ultra Prime. Getting these 3 grubs is going to help that a lot.
Shout out 1xN, just stack min-maxing right now with the use of Mamba. Just now, Feather ticking over to level 5. XiaoXia got level 6. There was a point where there was a 2-level discrepancy in their support, so you're seeing the value of being able to poke Feather out of those early lanes.
Yeah.
And again, it all is worrying because ThunderTalk as a comp outside of the Smolder picked a lot of champions for proactiveness in this early phase, and they've allowed Ultra Prime to coast, get themselves a decent amount of gold on the right champions, and more importantly, set themselves up for the monster slaying feats that they can grab virtually whenever they want with the pace of the game we currently are sitting with.
So far, so good for Ultra Prime, but they're going to have to keep the accelerator down. You cannot allow this game to go super late. That being said, it's not like you get completely and utterly outscaled right here, and it is going to be interesting to track how Jiang is doing versus how 1xN is doing, because if the Scion ends up getting ahead and you can just outpace this Smolder in terms of being tankier than he has damage, then all of a sudden that late game scaling that you're super excited for the Smolder isn't going to be anywhere near as scary, and you've got quite a lot of space that you can buy for yourselves from Ultra Prime to stop the Smolder being anywhere near as scary during these late game team fights. Still, ThunderTalk, they haven't fallen massively far behind. They're in fact up slightly when it comes to gold, obviously down in terms of effective stats because of all of the objectives. So ThunderTalk, they're not going to be too worried about this, but when do they get to start stepping up? Because we've got another Drake spawning here in 40 seconds time, and I'm not sure they're going to feel confident enough to step up to this one, and if they do feel confident enough, is it the right decision?
Decision. So far, Aki has just been setting up camps in these brushes. You called out how difficult it felt for this Vi to have agency in this early frame, and Aki has resorted to classic solo queue antics, trying to set up in these brushes. He's stealing XP, yeah. That's
XP again. Yeah, I mean, earlier when we were talking about Featherite not having got that level 6, well, he's still not got that level 6. And that's obviously a massive ulti right here. It's a key ulti for this ThunderTalk squad, and he needs to get it really before this Drake comes through. Otherwise, there's no way that you can fight this. There it is, okay.
Yeah, ThunderTalk, they're going to get Feather over to level 6. Both top laners have teleports, so a full 5-on-5 can break out. Who moves the first pawn forward? It's Aki with the Vault Breaker, going to drop on top, but a great combo from Saber. Gets SeTab down to about half HP, but here comes the trade back. Trom's going to land. Great flat forward to the headbutt pulverized, and Saber falls. Great aggressiveness there from Feather. One of the key facilitating contributors to this TT roster. Might have just got them the Dragon and the first crack and kill count.
And it's just a mistake right there out of Saber, not recognizing that he's down an item. Still, Ultra Prime, they know they're strong at this point, gonna teleport in and try for the play.
Okay, but the Dragon's already down, and Feather's going back in again. The Charm's gonna land, layered with the Equalizer. Amazing usage of the ultimates, and now Aki gets to fly forward with the Vault Breaker onto Zhang. Sion is tanky, but is he tanky enough to handle 5 members of ThunderTalk? Doesn't seem like it as he flashes over the wall, but another Vault Breaker is gonna sing home for Aki. That speeds to warfare secured for ThunderTalk, and SeTab just can't stop hitting these charms. Finally, TT break this game open like we were asking them to do.
So, Slayer, when we were talking about issues for Ultra Prime, team fighting was one of them, and that's just a comedy of errors for an Ultra Prime squad that had done really well for themselves during the early stages. Now, the key thing here is something we actually can't see, is the fact that SeTab has got that Malignance completed already, so he's up an item. So the second that he steps up, he just does way more damage than Saber, who still hasn't completed his first item. And that's really nice for Feather to just capitalize on that charm that ended up landing. Now, as Ultra Prime, yeah, you're relatively strong, and you can teleport in your tanky Scion, but he's not that tanky at this point in the game. He doesn't even get to ult in and start this fight off, so it's just a mistake to be trying to play for this one. And I'm not entirely sure why Ultra Prime decided to go for that one once you lose the mid laner. Before you lose the mid laner, you're stronger than your opponents. As soon as you're missing out onto that Talia, it's just not happening.
Again, back to those basics we were talking about. We wanted to see executed on for both of these teams, and one of the very many things of competitive League of Legends is recognizing when it's your turn to play for certain objectives, when you need to relinquish control. Ultra Prime still trying to grasp at their opportunities and when they have to back off. You saw it in that last spot. So now, where do we sit by this point? We've got some really accelerated pieces, especially in the top side for ThunderTalk, and that's the weak point we've been highlighting in a lot of their losses, Bloxer, so it's good to see them ahead at this current moment.
Absolutely. I was hoping that top lane would be a place Ultra Prime could play around, that Jiang would be able to take over Hoya. He hasn't necessarily been a big part of ThunderTalk in their wins. He's definitely detracted from a couple of their losses, but here, doing absolutely fine in the lane. We saw the early pressure he was able to produce. You do expect that to happen, but then teleporting down into that play on the bottom side of the map. Leandri's now completed as well with a good equalizer. He's been looking pretty strong at this point. And that's really key, because going towards the Malignance here for the Ahri means you're not anywhere near as damaging as you otherwise would be, but that doesn't matter, not when Hoya's in a good spot. Ultra Prime looking for something a bit aggressive. Saber, you do not want to step to any of these bushes, bud.
Well, This is a very unfun game of Where's Waldo, and Saber is going to be the one caught. Equalizer down. They throw down the cease and desist, everything layered on top of Saber, but he finally burns down. It's a clutch flash from Aki. Make sure he gets out without even trading his own life. Just like that, Hoya grabs a double, and Junhao having a flash out of his own river. ThunderTalk looking polished on these pick plays.
Really, really nice, and pick composition is exactly what we wanted ThunderTalk to try to play around. It's what they needed to do to get them through this early game, and that was really, really nice. It's just a miscommunication error, though, from Ultra Prime. You haven't seen 3 members of ThunderTalk for way, way too long that you shouldn't be just face-checking brushes. Now, how much you expect there to be one champion in each of the top lane brushes? Not that much, but you still have to be communicating that across the map, and Ultra Prime missing out onto a lot of gold at the moment because of these kills. They're now going to be 3,000 gold behind. Still, the objectives are falling in their favor once again, are going to be able to pick themselves up this Rift Herald. We'll see if they're going to be able to turn that into hopefully a mid lane tower to open up the map for themselves a bit. 1xN.
1xN.
Okay.
Gotta respect the wave
That's a key flash.
It's a very big flash to get out. We were talking about how much accelerated these early game champions are. The insurance plan for 1xN is still going to be a target as we get a replay. I just want to shout out, look at how well these ults are layered. Equalizer, cease and desist, exhaust, all at the same time.
Yeah, and key as well is the fact that you watch Hoya step up. Oftentimes, you want to play a little bit further away as the Rumble, especially once you've got yourself that equalizer down, but recognizes immediately that Junhao has popped that Crescent Guard and he's got to get close enough to deal the damage, and that's what gets them their kill quick enough that Aki's able to get back over the wall and get away. Very, very important that he was able to recognize that one, and some nice plays that we're seeing so far from ThunderTalk. 5 kills up, as we said, up by a decent chunk of gold, about 3,000 at the moment. Next Drake is going to be spawning in less than 30 seconds time, and now the momentum has flipped right on its head.
And now Ultra Prime, where do you really go from here? Because you still need to buy time for mainly your damage dealers, and that was the worrying thing about this composition. You were so propped up. Big Scion, big Braum, a lot of protections, but now that you're in this hole, you've got an Ezreal that's nowhere near the more amount of power spike you need. Seraph's not even completed for Saber on one item. How much can you really do at this point of your Ultra Prime? It feels like Bloxer, they're going to have to give up a lot of these big objectives and try and wait out until that Otacon. But that's not what they're really going for. They're trying to take aggro over this dragon. They've been spotted trying to take it. For now, they have control of the river. But Aki is looking for a flank angle. Feather, you know, he always wants to fly in with that headbutt pulverize. When I say starters drop the damage, and there goes Feather, gets the 3-man headbutt pulverize, and SeTab's coming out of the flank. Clutch, stun, make sure SeTab has to bail out of the fight. One more auto comes across for Baiye. He gets the first kill. The Smolder, though, trying to reel on the front side of this fight. Feather doing massive protection towards Hoya, but they're having to flee from the pit. It's clutch stuns from Saber that bail out Ultra Prime, and just like that, the game is back on even tilt.
SeTab, what are you doing? It's not so often that we see the flanking melee Ahri, but that's what SeTab decided to do in that fight, and they can't play these fights that quickly. You need a pick to start them out, especially at this point in the game. Everybody drops pretty low for Ultra Prime. If this fight happens in another 15 minutes time when 1xN has the executes on board, yes, that fight works like that, but it doesn't at this point in the game. We'll have a look back. The initial knock-up into Equalizer is really nice. I like that combo, but SeTab, it's not even like he comes out of vision, right? Before this team fight starts, he sat on bot wave, fully in vision, staring at his lane opponent.
How does Aki not kill? It was one auto. I don't know how Baiye's alive.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And there's, like you said, people getting low. There's a chance that maybe that fight works later on into the game, but right here, right now, that was not the play. And this is, again, part of the reason why these are some of our, as we expect them to be, bottom teams in Group Nirvana. There's moments where they just make questionable decisions.
Need to be succinct together when it comes to those execution plays. Earlier on for ThunderTalk, we saw Aki and Hoya are really succinct, but cannot make those mistakes in these big team fights. You don't have the 1xN insurance policy yet. 1xN, to his credit, has done a fantastic job stacking up. 192 stacks in 19 minutes, as we are going to see the feats of strength go over to Ultra Prime, grabbing that last turret. I'm liking the tempo they're pushing now. They dropped the Rift Herald mid. They're trying to open up as much of the map as possible before the Otacon in about 30 seconds.
Teleport coming on in. That's definitely not going to save the tower. Let's just Feather, obviously, with that unsealed spellbook. They should at least be able to stop this second charge out from the Rift Herald. There we go. Just going to get smoked down by Arky. And like you said, so far, 1xN, he's done well for himself. Yes, he got bullied about, pushed around during that early laning phase, but he's not down massively in CS, only down by about 10, and still has got 2 items completed, well on the way to that third with the BF sword already in inventory, and getting pretty close to hitting stacks already. He should be there by about 22 minutes, which is perfectly reasonable pace for a Smolder to be on. And the fact that ThunderTalk are already in a small gold lead, yeah, they lost a little bit of it, but they've still got the gold lead, gives me some confidence for this team going on forward. They just need to play these team fights a little bit more sensibly.
All those woes about damage we talked about for Ultra Prime have now immediately been alleviated. Baiye, more Amana completed for this Ezreal. Going to really start hurting with this poke. Saber has the Rallies and the Seraphs completed by this point. Safety and extra utility. Aki's life is going to become a lot harder, but SeTab thinks he has a pick onto Junhao. Doesn't even have to use the Crescent Guard. So that ultimate off the Ahri, and that's enough for Ultra Prime to signal, hey, we're going to go right after this Otacon. TT are too slow to the rotation. They're losing key ultimates. I don't even see a way that they could get in here, especially with the Feather getting completely chunked down by Saber. And the full Talia combination, the Scion teleports over first. TT, you cannot surrender this Otacon. All this XP for nothing, but how do you get into this pit? It's already down below 4,000, and Aki is way off to the side. The Jungler is even here trying to make the 50-50, so Junhao secures the Otacon. Feather caught on the front side, trying to use the Unbreakable Will to stay up and alive, but his health bar is depleting rapidly. Aki's going to try to go in off to the side, but his Vault Breaker finds nothing. He goes in for the season's assist, goes wild, and drops off, and now Ultra Prime get to sing their song, running for a Baiye double kill. The Weavers well forward. Can Saber find the kill into Hoya? One seismic shove will get it done. TT have collapsed from their early game lead.
And SeTab even has to teleport away to add insult to injury. ThunderTalk get completely demolished in that fight. And it all starts off the back of SeTab thinking he could get aggressive onto Junhao and not being able to. ThunderTalk, they had to concede that one. Otacon is not worth you throwing away this many kills for it, but the aggression just keeps on coming through. And I really like the way that Ultra Prime play this one. Jiang just steps up by so much space. Aki is completely zoned off of this fight, and at this point, you've got to recognize it's done. You're not going to be able to pick this one up. Yes, it is a decent equalizer right here out of Hoya, but he then steps up too close, gets caught out by Jiang's ultimate, and the main key damage dealers are not hitting onto key targets right here. Watch 1xN. He's hitting the Scion, and then the Scion, and then the Scion, and that's the only target he ends up hitting. So the single saving grace in that team fight is that right at the very end of it, 1xN hit stacks.
But is it too little too late by this point? Because the Scion is going to be near 2 items. You're not getting through this Braum and Scion anytime soon on the Smolder. You need that IE to come through to bring that big damage. And then the armor pen item. SeTab not going to bring enough damage. And like we talked about, Aki just in such an inopportune spot to ever have support on these cease and desists. Ultra Prime showed in that last fight how they should execute the rest of this game. Patience with their back line, patience making sure the Smolder can't hit anyone big as they start the siege onto the mid-tier 2 turret.
And these are a lot of the compositional problems really coming to fruition right now. Hang on, Hoya just going to have to flash away. That is a key flash. Decent play right there from Jiang, and that is also going to just draw members up towards the top side a little bit from ThunderTalk. It's going to open up this Drake. It's now going to be the sole point right here for Ultra Prime. But the problem is for ThunderTalk that you want picks out of Arky and SeTab. That's the way that these champions want to play. But 1xN and Hoya, they want some big team fights, but you don't have a big tanky jungler or an Orianna or an Azir to buy space for you from the mid lane, and so it just doesn't work. You can see these are split fights for ThunderTalk in ways that they simply don't want, and then the poke comes through from Ultra Prime, and the front line comes through from Ultra Prime, and there's just nothing it feels like that ThunderTalk can do. If they want to make these plays work, they both need to get the pick before the fight starts, and then buy space for 1xN to hit onto some key targets.
I think that's a great point to bring up about the space there, Bloxer, because Feather, again, has to be so much of that. The space created here for 1xN. And by this point, Baiye, I mean, Spirit Shojin done. This Ezreal is disgusting with damage. You've got enough out of the Xin Zhao and Talia to bring that home as well. And it's not even about getting to remember, it's not about Ultra Prime having to get to backline targets. 1xN is scary, but they've got tanks to deal with it for now. So just got to protect your carries, and they'll bring the damage home onto, like you mentioned, a Vi that just does not survive long enough into these damage dealers. And what does this mean for ThunderTalk right now? They're just having to cede so much space on the map.
Yeah.
Baron going to spawn in about 15 seconds, and you got to think there's no wiggle room for ThunderTalk to even work their way up to the pit right now.
No, who steps up in this composition? Your true tank is your Alistar, sure, but Alistar's not that tanky, and if you're blowing the ulti on the walk into the pit, then you don't have it for the fight actually around this objective either, and it's just producing so many conflicts for ThunderTalk that it currently doesn't feel like they have any answers to. Teleport's going to come through, and now the aggression around the Baron is going to start up. ThunderTalk, they recognize that something's up, but they don't even know for certain that this Baron has been started. It's not the fastest Baron take right now, but still,
thank you.
You can't step
to
it.
Yeah, they have
Mom
no idea.
for vision.
Mom for vision. That is the hole that ThunderTalk are in. Feather going to eat a seismic shove
no.
here. XiaoXia and Saber try and hold the line. Zhang going to also spend the ultimate. Tries to go out of the pit as Aki is stuck in the back here. Vaultbreaker's back over. Baron's at about 2K. Can Aki get the steal here? Gets knocked up. Yes! Gets away with the steal. It was too early of a smite from Junhao. A lifeline to TT. But they need to escape with the purple banner, and they will do just that. Another topsy-turvy point in our game one. TT survive and thrive with 4 of Baron.
Oh my god, Aki with the Vault Breaker in, the Vault Breaker out, the flash in, and the steal. He manages to do it right here. He gives ThunderTalk a lifeline to try to play around, but that is just mismanagement of the pit right there from Ultra Prime. Aki was stuck in there without any way back out for way too long. He should have just been dead. The fact he gets to get back in is criminal, but it's just split focus, right? SeTab once again decides to go melee, and people get drawn over to it. I can understand, right? Melee Ahri is a juicy-looking target, but man, it's just bad smites and misplays here. And the fact that you get away with 4 of your Barons is huge here for ThunderTalk.
I know everyone, it's Group Nirvana. I should have expected this coming in, but it's head-scratching to see Ultra Prime come off that Baron. They let the Baron regen. It regen about 2,500 health because they just weren't on the same page.
Just take it. Just take it. I promise that SeTab going melee range is less juicy than the Baron for your team, right? And, you know, again, Group Nirvana teams, they make mistakes like this. We can recognize, hey, there were some whoopsies right there. But it's about now what ThunderTalk can do with this gift that they have been given. Right now, it's just going to be a Baron-empowered cannon minion slowly chunking out this tower in the bottom lane. I do like this play, actually, from Hoya, taking this a little bit slower. He's syncing up the waves. He's also just removing some XP away from Ultra Prime. That's nice. That's going to give them a little bit extra right here. He's now going to be able to take down that tower. And that's actually the first tower of the game here for ThunderTalk. That's going to go a long way towards getting themselves a lot more gold. ThunderTalk, they have a ton of standing gold available to them on the map.
And where does all that need to funnel into? The insurance policy. For as much as we were worried about Vi and Ahri not getting a good lead early on, 1xN has the IE done, has over 300 stacks. It's a whole new ball game that I know all you in the LPL remember. So many iconic Smolder games. Does 1xN have a staple one in the cards here so early into split 3? Because at this point for ThunderTalk, he is the win god.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very close as well for SeTab being able to pick up that death cap. So the item breakpoints are coming through for ThunderTalk. There's going to be a key fight right here. You cannot allow this soul to go over.
Have to watch for these flank lines. Aki's trying to remain hidden. Already has a Baron still under his belt. And it's just his second game for ThunderTalk. Does he have more heroics in store for us? Ultra Prime start up this Chemtech break, but they need to be careful. They're going to use the Weaver's Wall. Now looking to try and churn and burn, but Aki can get right over it. Equalizer's going to come down onto the backline, and now Ultra Prime is starting to get a bit scattered, but Feather is way below HP.
He gets
drops
the dragon.
Equalizer. Zhang is going to go in, but it's secured by Junhao. Gets his revenge on the dragon, and Baiye is going to pop Hoya, but 1xN remains untouched. He needs to find these low health bars. 1xN's flashing forward. It's a clutch. Zodia's coming out from Saber. 1xN trying to desperately kite back with the Braum. Stuns, land. All the damage lands for Ultra Prime, and they find themselves the clutch fight win.
They're going to win the fight. They're going to pick themselves up the soul as well. And now what can Ultra Prime do with 4 members of ThunderTalk dead? They're going to push through the mid lane. Teleport coming in as well from Saber right here. They may be looking to try end this game.
They survive the Exodia Smolder for now, and they're looking to capitalize on it by getting their first game win of Split 3. Who's there to stop it so far? It's Feather respawning now and SeTab. But Zhang is so tanky and the turrets are depleting rapidly. Sure, Feather gets a big headbutt pulverized, but why does Ultra Prime ever care about either of these two champions? All they care about is going for the win. Hoya's back up. We have a Nexus race, but Ultra Prime are gonna win it and win game 1 of our series.
Sub 30 minutes as well right there for Ultra Prime. And that game, it was not clean. There were mistakes. They end up with the Baron stolen away from them. But still, that was an Ultra Prime actually who were able to do quite a lot of good things. And that last fight as well, very, very impressive from them. Crazy, crazy game here to kick off today.
Classic Nirvana game. Listen, I thought we were going to ease our way in. They're going to be like, all right, maybe game one team will stop, right? And they'll get some comments behind them. No, we've got I would say, what, 3 throne fights back to back in that game?
Yeah. Just multiple moments where you're looking at different players, honestly from both squads at points, and going, what are you doing? Like, why? Why are you making that decision? The one that really stands out to me is definitely the SeTab melee range moment, where, like, that was never going to work. If that flank right there is coming from a Scion, I like it. I like the idea. From the Ahri, that was not going to happen, but it wasn't just him, it was kind of everybody. Even right in that last moment, the key item that comes through, the Zhonya's being completed right there, that was completed seconds before that fight actually ended up happening. It popped up on the edge of the screen, he arrives in the fight, then he has that. If he doesn't, all of a sudden, 1xN, he picks up that first kill, and he picks up a second kill, and you know what? Maybe the Smolder can actually make it happen. Maybe 1xN can find the fight, and we're still midway through this game discussing whether or not ThunderTalk can actually win it. Instead, it's all she wrote, and now ThunderTalk, they find themselves in a hole here up against Ultra Prime.
And what did we talk about, Bloxer, before we got into this matchup, right, is draft identity being simple and cohesive. And the more I heard you talk about the pitfalls of ThunderTalk, the more I realized that they were really just, dipping. It's like they went up to a draft buffet, right? And they just took a little bit of everything. Let me get a little bit of Smolder scaling. Let me get a little bit of, early game Vi, Ahri with a Rumble. But then we also have an Alistair for the later protection. It was like they couldn't make up their mind. And you kind of saw that unfold on the Rift.
It really did. As ThunderTalk right there, you had to make a decision about how you were going to play this one out, and instead, as you said, they kind of just ended up playing both. I mean, you can see it here. 1xN does the most damage in the entire game.
Standard 1xN stats right here of a TT game, I mean.
He's crazy. I mean, we'll see as we go through this split number 3, but the free 1xN chants, I think, are going to get louder and louder as we get through this split.
I'm going to get a megaphone at this rate.
Yeah, I mean, we really need to be producing as much free 1xN noise as possible, because this man was trying his absolute hardest. But as you were talking about, right, the composition just isn't to play around him. Feather is the only person on a champion that really works right here. You need something else to play around. If you want to have the big aggression in the top lane out of the Rumble, then you need something with a little bit more team fight in the mid lane, maybe even something like a Galio to make it work. But instead, it just doesn't work. And I think the single most criminal thing about this ThunderTalk comp is that once you picked it, and you know you're in this situation, you have to use it to your advantage at some point, right? But they just don't. They don't ever just go for this one pick on a side lane and try to make it work there, and then go for the team fight to make it easier for your Smolder. Instead, they just play it like they've got a front-to-back team composition when they simply don't.
It's just too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make different dishes. It really felt like that for ThunderTalk. And it's going to be fun to watch back these fight clips because it was just such a topsy-turvy game. I still don't know how Baiye survives here. The stun locks are amazing.
Yeah.
And I do want to shout out Baiye, who, was a bit quiet in the EDG series. He plays a Saber game. His team kind of gets run over in the early game. It's like, what can you really do at that point where you have to be playing a champion that needs 3 to 4 items to really unlock? This time he picks the Ezreal and was really weaving it in and out of these fights very impressive, in a very impressive fashion. And yes, classic AD carry player here, focusing on the marksman as much as possible coming from Slayer.
Hey. They were very important in this game, and like you said, Baiye was absolutely fine in this game. He wasn't massive, but he didn't need to be. I feel like he gave us exactly what he needed. He had
didn't
big
die,
pressure
right?
in the early game, was safe enough, was just constantly dealing the damage, and was backing up the rest of the team when they were playing these aggressive fights. But he didn't have to be that big person. He didn't need to step up massively right here because Junhao was stepping up so well. Because you had just so much space being bought up right here by Baiye, and he was just constantly in their backline, ulting in as well. I really liked the way that Ultra Prime played out these big, messy team fights. I mean, as you said, it was the easier to execute composition, but hey, that's all you need from Group Nirvana teams a lot of the time. Easy to execute composition, play it well, win games.
Bloxer, I'm so glad you pointed out that Zhonya's buy because it
happened seconds beforehand.
Yeah, and here's the thing about that Zhonya's, right? I'm going to deep dive it. We got some time.
Yeah.
By going stasis, you eliminate the Smolder Q, which is is third evolve, right? So that was Junhao, who's low enough for execute behind him, but because the Zanyus took away the Q entirely, it doesn't bounce. So you don't even get to kill Junhao. It's just awesome in a game where so many things are going on, Bloxer, that one critical decision can have such big implications.
It's fun to see, and it does show you that these two teams, the margins are not massive. Now, whether or not that's a good thing for these teams in terms of their standings, in terms of their hopes of being able to make it to the play-ins, doesn't matter. In terms of this series, it makes it very, very exciting, and it means that going on into the next game, I'm not going to say our Ultra Prime are just going to run away with it on ThunderTalk. A ThunderTalk with a better composition have a good chance. Now, I'm okay with Baiye being able to pick up an MVP for this one. Like you said, he was not massively flashy, but he absolutely did his job.
And Baiye, congratulations, my friend. Your first 2025 Player of the Game award. Don't have a lot of one MVP counts this deep into the calendar year, so it's cool to see him come up so clutch. And yeah, kill participation so high, damage share, gold, all the stats backing up a Player of the Game-like performance there from Baiye. Well, Baiye was the Player of the Game for Ultra Prime in their first win of Split 3. You want to know who the Player of the LPL English, MVP of the LPL English, I'll phrase it is. It is our Coffee supporters. We're extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it goes to paying on-air talent and content creators behind the scenes. Shout out to our content creators, by the way, for the awesome MSI work. Haven't got to stay down on a live stream, so want to give them their love there. You can subscribe to Coffee. It is linked in chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. We're going to give you a bit of time to maybe peruse the Coffee system we've got below and try and get prepped for Game 2 here between ThunderTalk and Ultra Prime. We'll see you guys on the other side of the break to see if Ultra Prime have a sweep on our hands or ThunderTalk bite back.